So Shannon Hill posted an incredible post on the Progressive Strategy Forum, and essentially it goes along with what Jeff Young is talking about. He's saying, let's talk about the issues. Kentucky has problems. Let's find those solutions to those problems. Instead, there's all these McConnelling things where people attack character, they attack families, they attack this and that, and just, you're stupid, shut up, And that's just that's a logical fallacy. Ad hominem attacks is a logical fallacy. You're not saying whether or not, death penalty, abortion, racism, class warfare, and energy policy are the 5 issues that we're going to be talking about in this campaign. And so, just take any issue, right? So let's take racism. If you in Kenton County, 10 black people to 1 white person is arrested for simple marijuana possession. The war on drugs is ridiculous, but there's racism in it. It's racist. And why did Mitch McConnell win? I would say racism had a lot to do with it. But if I'm sitting there talking about the war on drugs, and then about how it's a failure everywhere that has been implemented, it's failed, it's ruined people's lives, it justifies criminality and police brutality against innocent people who think that they have a right to their own bodies. Simple marijuana possession, #1 cash crop in Kentucky is marijuana. And so if I was to sit there and say all those issues, and then you came back at me and you said, well, you're a piece of shit. What does that have to do with the war on drugs? It has nothing to do with the war on drugs. Unfortunately, the theater of politics is different than the actual governance in politics. The theater is like, hey, this is what I am, this is what I believe, and then they go to govern, and then they're devoid. Mitch McConnell, what did he accomplish in 30 years? We don't know. He was able to get some money, buy some TV ads, and then he got reelected. Well, I guess that's all you got to do, right? You don't have to actually do anything good for Kentucky. So, the actual talking about the issues. What are Kentucky's problems? How are we going to solve those? In reference to the energy policy, we are #1 in air pollution. #1 in the country for air pollution. So I don't know if you've seen the China, if you've seen some of the pictures in China and all the smog where it just coats the entire city. You breathe in that crap. You're breathing in all those toxins. And there's probably a lot of smoke producing factories that's given, cancer and other ailments to the population around them. So if we want to talk about air pollution, since that's one of Kentucky, that's the worst rank. That's not good. We don't want to be #1 in all these bad categories: poverty, healthcare, and so air pollution. If we want to try to solve, okay, here's how the conversation would work. Here's how it would break down. Air pollution is a problem. What are we going to do to fix it? Well, there's several things you could do to fix air pollution. You could cut emissions. You can encourage a culture of energy efficiency. You can get solar power and wind power and hydropower and biomass power, and you can invest in alternative energy strategies so you don't have all the dirty coal going up into the sky. With cars, they just shoot out all those fumes. Factories and buildings like big skyscrapers, those are the ones that produce more pollution than the vehicles. The vehicles are a small step in the right direction. But of course, if you can make a vehicle that doesn't produce as much pollution, if you can figure out how to turn these buildings around and these factories to where they're not creating all this pollution, we can do things like that. We can, you can have lots of alternative ways. You can have, energy efficiency. It's just about the culture of people doing right. But if they don't do right, then you just got to legislate it into law. Nah. You need to do what's right. You won't hear Jack Conway say that. He's suing the EPA. He's allowing for emissions to go on and on and on. And so he's going the opposite. He's not an environmentalist. He's in favor of mountaintop removal. And so who's going to solve the pollution? You think any of the Republican candidates are going to solve the pollution problems? And really, if you want to be serious, okay, so let's just size up the candidates. You got, on the Democratic side, you got Jeff Young and you got Jack Conway. And if you're an informed voter and you want the best candidate to take a stand, you want the best candidate to be your governor, well, how do you determine who the best candidate is? I think it's a hard decision to make. It's a hard decision to make. You have to, you got to look at the person. You got to see if, you got to check out their policy statements. That's the first thing you got to do. Where do you stand on the issues? What kind of governor will you be? Will you get in there? Will you raise taxes on everybody? Will you cut taxes for the rich? Will you raise taxes for the rich? Are you going to be in favor of unions? Are you going to cut pollution? Are you going to help out with the poverty and the healthcare issues? Or are you going to be against all that? And so looking at the policies is the first thing. Then I think looking at the person themselves is the next thing. Okay, so let's say you have a really good person that would have lots of good policies. Now you got to say, well, if they're governor, could they get the policies that they want achieved? Could they get, if you agree with their policies. So I agree with Jeff Young's policies. So the next question is, if Jeff Young is governor, can he get those policies implemented? He's the governor. He's the governor, so he would have the bully pulpit. He would be the one saying the State of the State Union every year. He would have influence. He would be the face for Kentucky, and he would set the agenda. And so, yes, Jeff Young could implement all of his policies. If we're being serious about advancing Kentucky. I'll even talk, I'll mention it. Gatewood, okay? Gatewood Galbraith. He loved Kentucky, charismatic, passionate, would go to speeches and just rile up the audience. Spoke forcefully, spoke strongly, very moral, very good person. And if you look at America, the rest of America is catching up with Gatewood and Ronnie Lee Smith. So they want to just sort of pigeonhole him and say he's Gateweed, right? The media was saying, oh, Gateweed. Well, now we got hemp legalized. We got CBD legalized. There's a medical marijuana bill right now being discussed in Frankfurt. You have 4 states in America plus Washington, D.C. that has full-blown recreational legalization. Uruguay and North Korea. The Netherlands, while it's not full-blown recreation, it's de facto full-blown recreation. So you only got, a few countries all around the world. But North Korea, think about that one, North Korea. So Kentucky has been beaten up on Gatewood for doing something that even the totalitarian fascist dictatorship of Kim Jong-il or Un allows. So Kim Jong-un is more liberal than the establishment in the United States, in the other states, the 46 states that hasn't had full-blown legalization. There's probably about 25 states that have legalized medical marijuana. And so this is the sort of the last thing. We got, we're getting gay rights. It seems to be inevitable, but don't ever think it's inevitable. They thought the 60s, the hippies of the 60s thought that the revolution was inevitable. It's not inevitable. You have to make the apple off the tree fall. And so how do you make the apple off the tree fall? I think there's, that's a strategical question. But again, so you take a look at Gatewood's issues. He wasn't just talking about marijuana. He was talking about greater health care, greater education. He was against mountaintop removal. Jack Conway's in favor of it. Jack Conway's in favor of more emissions. He's suing the EPA so we can just keep polluting willy-nilly. I don't see a corporation having to abide by environmental standards being opposites, just like I don't see unions being the opposites of corporations. Many times they're opposed. They have different interests that they're fighting for. But you're telling me you cannot respect human rights. If you're running a corporation, you cannot respect human rights and stop polluting my air that I breathe. If you can't support human rights and you're all for polluting the water, streams, land, and the air, then you're a bad person. You're a bad person. You're a wicked, bad person. You just want to make money and you just want to, destroy anybody else that you could destroy. So I don't see them as opposites. Corporations can make money. In fact, here's a good example. Ralph Nader, he had got the car industry. He sued General Motors for something, and eventually the car companies started putting in seatbelts and airbags and having the rear view mirror break away. Whenever people were getting into car accidents, that rear view mirror was jabbing right into their eye and was killing them. And so a breakaway mirror, just something so tiny, something so small, a breakaway mirror. So when you have a crash, it breaks away and doesn't stab you in the eye and kill you. Now, if you look at the car commercials, they brag about the safety features that they have. That is a selling point. So making the car companies, making corporations act responsible, be good corporate citizens, where they respect human rights, respect unions, respect working people, and respect the environment, is good for everybody. That's good for everybody. You're a good corporate citizen, you care about the community, you're not polluting everything, you pay a decent wage, you're a good corporate citizen. But if you come in here and you're polluting all over the place, you're paying minimum wage, you're treating the employees like crap, you're a bad corporate citizen. Get out of my state. And even though Jeff Young doesn't want to mention this word, I think it needs to be said in order to have an honest conversation. Kentucky can be like Germany. Look at the European countries. Look at them. Study them. Okay? There's lots of good things happening in Norway, Sweden, Germany, and just all, basically the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. So we should look at every nation in the world, see what is working, what's not working, and do the things that's working. Stop doing the things that aren't working. It's common sense, right? So let's take a look at Germany. Germany has one of the highest GDPs in the world. They're top 4. I think they're number 4 in the entire world. Japan, which is a nation smaller than California, produces GDP, one of the top 4. I think they're number 3. So whatever Japan is doing, whatever Germany is doing, especially since they're so much smaller in size and land, less people. I think they might be, Kentucky has 4.4 million, so we might have less people. But you also got Kadar and Liechtenstein. You got small nations that just kicking ass. And that's what we need to do. Kick ass, take some names, right? So if you want greater and better capitalism, you should do what Germany is doing. Germany does capitalism and it does socialism better than America. So Kentucky needs to get on that fast track. We live in a mixed system. It's not purely capitalist, right? You got the war on drugs, prostitution, that's illegal. So that's not free market economics. And then there's subsidization of corporations, giveaways, tax breaks, and the bankers' bailouts, which is just socialism for the wealthy. So we have a country that's giving money to the rich, taking money from the poor, giving it to the rich, and that's acceptable. That's reverse Robin Hood. So we can do like Germany, and Kentucky can have we can do better and have a socialist and a mixed socialist capitalist system. So by having a mixed socialist capitalist system, which is what we have already, you got the salt trucks. Oh no, the socialist salt trucks are out here making our roads all cleared. Oh no, there's road builders making more roads for us so we could drive on. Oh my God, they're building schools. That's all socialism. So when Mitch McConnell says we don't need to be socialistic, is he saying dismantle education? Scott Walker's working on dismantling education. If he's against socialism as he defines it, because right now the word isn't even really properly defined, but it's government welfare or government ownership of utilities. That's what they're saying socialism is. I think socialism is when the workers control the factories. When you think about the slaves on the plantation, who does all the work? Who does everything? The slaves do. And what does Massa do? Sit on the porch drinking his Kool-Aid with his pinky up in the air with a whip in his left hand? If your ideas need violence in order to enforce, your ideas and work the damn. And you're telling me that the slaves couldn't work together? They're the ones that do all the work. So nominate one of them to be the leader, have a shop steward, and then organize yourselves. That's what the slaves on the plantation should do. The workers in the factories, workers in corporations should do the same thing. You can run the corporations yourself if you have solidarity, if you respect one another. You know that you want profits. You know you want to make money. In fact, Sam Walton had a good idea. He had a profit sharing program where the employees would get a percentage of the profits. And so that ties the interest of the worker to the corporation. Instead of just being a wage slave where you're paid for your time and they just try to pack as much labor that they can put in your time. Instead of doing that, you'll actually be a part of the corporation. You'll care about the corporation. You'll want them to make money. You'll put the best face forward for the corporation. That's a good idea. There's lots of actually corporations that are doing some really stellar work about organizing and having, you know, a good workplace where it's union friendly. And so that's you know, that's I think Kentucky could do socialism and capitalism better. So I think that, okay, so we have a mixed, let's get a mixed socialist capitalist system in play. What does that look like? Well, you want corporations, headquarters, you want businesses, you want small businesses. Something that I kind of took offense to with the Republicans at the Realtors Forum was how they would say that, what are we going to do with Appalachia? All those poor people need jobs. In order to get those jobs, you need to get the big corporations in here. Well, that's not exactly true. Like, they might provide a few jobs, but ultimately we need to develop ourselves, develop our infrastructures, get entrepreneurs and small businesses up and running, get people to do the things that they want to do. And we need to be more creative. We need to be more creative, and we need to, you know, there's a lot of things that we can do, but by depending on corporations coming in to save us all, I think we're misplacing where the emphasis should be. That's one part of it, but the other part should be one part. That's one part of it, is to get more businesses in there. Thanks, Christopher. Don't go nowhere. Okay, so what does that look like? I think we do get businesses in here. We get corporations in here. We have strong unions. We have strong labor movement, and we get people to start small businesses. And we develop people to do their own things. You know, when I think about, like, what I want to do, I am not good with authority figures. So because of that, I have to start my own business. I don't like to be told what to do. Go do this, go do that, like I'm just some stupid slave. I can't stand that. I got dignity. I got self-worth. I'm not just a slave to some other person. I'm not a slave. And I could do the job. Hey, you know, at the timber mill, I could do the job. I could get in there, trim all the wood, and work my butt off for 9 hours straight. I could do the work. What I couldn't do, and what I couldn't tolerate, was the racism, the disrespect, lack of solidarity. I mean, just a bunch of buttholes, right? Just a bunch of individuals. And so, you know, that's, we can do socialism and we can do capitalism in Kentucky better. We already got socialism. The school system is socialism. The post office is socialism. In Mitch McConnell speak, Somerset has bought a gas station in order to lower the price gouging. Boone County has bought the golf courses. So we already have governments that are buying private entities in order to profit and build up their general fund, and also have public services that are inexpensive for everybody. That's a good idea. In Corinth, they own the internet there. They have fiber optics internet. Fiber optics. Fiber optics. You know? Fiber optics. So, that's more socialistic than just, you know, public welfare or public services. So we have socialism for the rich. We give, you know, all these monies and giveaways and tax breaks to the corporate environment, which is, you know, that's fascism. That's when the corporations and government get together. That's fascism, and I think that's FDR. So, and so that's what we're faced with right now with the Republican class war. We're looking at fascism coming down upon us, being imposed upon us. It's going to be like Chile. It's going to be like Haiti. They're going to be chopping Kentucky into little bitty pieces, selling all of our raw materials and resources, and turning all the human capital, you and me, working, middle, poor classes, into cheap labor. That's what the corporations want. So we already know what the corporations want. They want to make as much money as possibly as they can. All right, make as much money as you can possibly can. But you can't be irresponsible. You can't go around polluting other people's streams and lakes, and you can't treat your employees like crap. Respect human rights. Respect the environment. So how I think it looks like, I mean, if we got a government that only cares about the corporations, only cares about warfare, get rid of the government. I mean, they're not helping us. And as long as they keep helping us, we can keep the government. So what can we do? We could get internet for all of Kentucky. All of Kentucky can get some internet. We need internet. You want to talk about developing infrastructure? Let's get some internet. We can, we've got a lot of schools, and I've actually seen lots of buildings with the schools. That's good. Under a young master's ticket, you would not see a cut in K through 12 education, nor would you see college or Medicaid being cut. These are essential services that Kentuckians need. Education, health care. And education is free. It's absolutely free. We have free education. You want to talk about socialism? I think the radical Republicans are working on, Rand Paul's against the Department of Education. Against the Department of Education. What? Well, how many people has the Department of Education put through school, put through college? And you're going to get rid of it? While I have my issues with public education, I don't like the 100% compliance principle. I'm in favor of charter schools and vouchers because I think more competition does increase the quality of the education. I'm not against universal public education. So that's what a capitalist socialist system would look like. It basically looks like what we got here, strengthen what we got, make sure the education and healthcare is good. We should have a single payer healthcare provider. It should be Kentucky Care or Young Care, and we should protect those things. And at the same time, we should be cheerleaders in order to get corporations into the state. They provide a few jobs. They're good at producing GDP. Economics is all dependent on if you can produce a bunch of GDP, then everything else will rise along with it. So I like that. I like that idea. I think it's oversimplistic, and I got problems with it. But the economists have been running with it for quite some time. So there has to be something to it, right? I think just producing a bunch of stuff. If I got a factory and I just produce 100,000 cars, not knowing if there's a demand, not knowing if there's anything, I may sell those cars, or they may just sit in the parking lot and rust. And if I have a bunch of cars that sit in the parking lot and rust, then that's not, that GDP doesn't help anybody. And then who also, benefits, who also sort of, who benefits, right? Quit clicking on stuff. So, who benefits? Who benefits? That's having a bunch of GDP by itself does not create a good economy. You need to have GDP with that meets the demands of the citizens, and then the corporation that's building those cars, when they start to be profitable, I would say for small businesses, they should be exempt from most regulations and tax burdens. No, you don't want them to go around doing bad stuff, but when you're starting a business, especially small businesses, individuals, poor Appalachians, if a poor Appalachian is going to try to start themselves a media business, if they're going to try to, get into, selling, buying a dollar store and running a dollar store or something, how are they going to buy the dollar store? How are they going to start this media company? Where are they going to get the money and the resources in order to make sure that they're productive and that they're doing good? Where's that going to come from? If they're poor, they don't have the money. So we need to have, monies that help people develop their own infrastructures. And no, we don't have a bottomless pit of money. There is a limited amount of resources. So, of course, we need to be slim and lean. Of course we need to be like that. Of course. You don't want waste, which is why I'm in favor of the guaranteed minimum income. which actually goes back. I haven't said a word about Shannon Hill's synthesis yet, and I'll get to it in a minute once I make this point. So that's that's what a socialist capitalistic system looks like. Yeah, get the corporations in here, let them do what they do, make sure they're responsible for human rights and the environment, but at the same time develop our individual Kentucky citizens to be super men and super women, the Ubermensch, so they can be all that they can be, so that they can achieve their dreams, go after their hopes. Not run away from their fears, but actually go for the things that they want to do. That's what we need. That's what we're, faced with. And so how are we going to get this? Most of the governments have a mixture of Democrats and Republicans. So since, there's a lot of major issues that need to be talked about, that need to be discussed, we do need a gentleman's conversation about the issues and then what would be best in order to solve those issues. And so that's our empire is in decline, and this is some serious stuff. Kentucky citizens need to take a greater interest in their politicians, and the politicians need to start doing what is right. So since that the stakes are high, and there's, we barely seem like we floated by, even though Obama saved us from the Great Depression. The Republicans have just been beaten up on Obama the whole time. Obama's going to go down in history as one of the greatest presidents ever. And if you're mad that Barack Obama, a black man, is president, just like I don't even know what he is, the manager at the timber mill in Garfield, if you just think Obama's a nigger and fuck him, well, fuck you. You're a racist, bigoted piece of shit, right? I don't respect you. There's racialism. We could see difference in cultures, but to hate somebody because they got a different culture, I don't think so. That's ridiculous. So that's that's what we're faced with. With Barack Obama saved us out of the Great Depression. We're still afloat. We're still going. But Cairo and Russia is no longer trading with the U.S. dollar. China and Russia is no longer trading with the U.S. dollar. We're seeing our empire in decline. And we can keep on marching, doing the same thing that we've been doing the whole time. And then when the crash happens, we could all be surprised about it. Like 9/11. How did that happen? Well, it happened because of what happened in Guatemala and El Salvador and Yemen and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. There's many reasons why it happened. We've been killing them. Our empire's been killing people. And they didn't like it. So I'm not... we don't need to appease them. I think by passing the Patriot Act, we get rid of our freedoms. We're appeasing them. And why would we do that? Why would we change our life, take our shoes off at the airports? They're trying to ban yoga pants. You get banned for dancing. You can't have yard sales. You can't... sit in the back of a truck, drive down the road. This is a free country. This is a free nation. It's a police state. They're restricting our freedoms. You only got, I guess, the freedom, just like corporations, to do whatever you can, and you get away with. So in a way, it's kind of anarchy is kind of like that's the current system that we're faced with right now. And so, every person for themselves. It's sort of a capitalistic culture. While that's true, I got Republican neighbors who's on Social Security. So they're going to vote for the Republicans. Chickens voting for Colonel Sanders. They voted for the Republicans. They're going to get their Social Security cut, and then what are they going to do? They're going to die off. Why would you vote for Republicans? The neighbors, they said that, well, the damn immigrants, they're taking all the taxes. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. You're a racist. And I cannot stand racism. And so, that's the chickens voting for Colonel Sanders. And if that's what we're going to do, we're going to vote for the corporations to come in Kentucky and run roughshod over all of us, cut Social Security, cut that's old age pension. It's not exactly established as a gift. It's taken out of working people's taxes. The young pay for the old today, and then tomorrow the young will pay for us, the young working class of yesterday. And so that's how Social Security works, but effectively it works as an old age pension. And so if these are programs that people like. People like Social Security. People like food stamps. I mean, I think people like gifts. They like free stuff. And if you allow people to just have whatever they want, they'll take it all. So we don't want to just give anybody a free lunch. Well, yeah, we do. We want to give people free food. Of course, you want people to eat and live. With the guaranteed minimum income, you guarantee life. And if you want to go out and hustle to be above, a $10,000 a year income, then you go out and you hustle. You go out and you hustle. And then you become a millionaire, become middle class. But at least you're not poor. At least you're not slipping off into the drain. And then everybody says, oh, well, who gives a damn? That's a very psychopathic, unempathetic culture. And I remember Paul Patton, he put on Kentucky bumper stickers, it's that friendly. Southern hospitality, it's that friendly. So if we're, so friendly, why would we allow homeless people to freeze to death out in the woods? Why would we allow young elementary school teachers to get shot up by the police? There's many things that we are not doing right and we're not doing effectively, and I think it's absolutely an abomination. I think it's ridiculous. We have social programs. We have a social system in place so we can do socialism and we can do capitalism better. So protect the poor, protect the environment, protect human rights, get corporations in here, get the poor to start their own small businesses, get them on some land so they can raise their own crops and their own food and be self-sustaining, to be self-efficient. That's where every individual should want to get to. The increase of social services. Denmark is the happiest country in the world. And that's because the freedom for the individual is increased when you have good health care, when you have a good education, good job. You have more freedom. If you're poor, you're not free. You think you're free without money? I don't think so. If you don't have money in America, you're not free. But if you have the social safety nets in place, you can probably get rid of all the social programs and just institute the guaranteed minimum income. All the old people, that's their pension. That's pension for poor people. Everybody lives. The GMI is such a great idea. Milton Friedman and Martin Luther King were in favor of the guaranteed minimum income. And so that's this is the stakes that we're confronted with. Now, if you're a pure capitalist, if you're a pure laissez-faire, dog-eat-dog capitalist, let the markets decide everything. Let us all be cheap labor, our own independent agents, hop from job to job if that's what it takes to get a better, life. Then go ahead and vote for the Republicans. Go ahead and vote for, I would like to think that Jack Conway would be in favor of some of these social programs, but he runs to the right all the time. I have no idea what his platform is. I have no idea what he actually stands for. So if you want to keep the social programs and you want stronger capitalism, then you would elect me for lieutenant governor. And that would be what I would push for. That would be what I want. And I think it's actually what is in place already in America, so it's a more honest conversation. Instead of trying to demonize somebody, well, you're a communist, right? Trying to do the communist scare. Well, that's socialism. No, that's not socialism. Socialism is when, the workers control the factory. So food stamps isn't socialism. It's socialistic, but it's not socialism. So that's my preamble. That's my 34-minute preamble. The thing I liked about Shannon Hill, he mentioned a lot of the things that I've already mentioned, but that he was sort of saying we can have a better conversation with the Republicans. Now, there are things that we believe that they don't believe. There are things that they believe that we don't believe. And so what do? Well, he synthesized it all and said, well, here are some compromises that I could live with. And I think that if you have to negotiate with the Republicans, which are borderline treasonous, they're, terrorism, they're for terrorism, with bombing everybody all over the world. But if you have to negotiate with the Republicans, then I think that these compromises are a good idea. And I'll tell you, one of the best ideas that I came across was pro-guns. So, in the interest of freedom, allow for practically unlimited rights to gun ownership, which I actually already agree with. But if I go in there and say, hey, I already agree with it, let's just go ahead and get this done, then I don't get what I want. And so I should hold that back. And, I mean, I've questioned a lot of things. I mean, Britain and Australia, they have like no gun deaths, at all. 9 people die. In Iceland, there was 1 cop shooting. One individual single cop shooting. And the person felt bad about it and apologized, even though they was in the right. I mean, that's amazing. That's incredible. So, I mean, I am sympathetic to gun control. But I believe in order to fight against a tyrannical state, you have to have the same weapons that they have. Now, me saying that right now, I think it'd be a bloodbath if we try to do any type of, American Revolution type things. But still, you cannot oppress an armed population. So if it did get crazy, if you did have Nazi stormtroopers knocking down our doors and arresting us for whatever trivial, trumped-up BS, then having an armed population would stop that. So I can hold the gun, unlimited rights to gun ownership back. Okay. I want... I don't even know what I could come up with, to be honest with you. But hold it back and then say, look, I'll vote for your freedom to have guns, all the guns you want, if you allow us to have gay marriage and for abortion to stay illegal. I think that's amazing. I think that's it should be rare. We don't want to have a bunch of abortions, but it should stay safe and legal, and healthcare should cover it. So, that's a good compromise. That one, they all are pretty good ones. Social Security, Republicans want to privatize it. Democrats want to increase the benefits. So, the compromise is without privatizing, make it a real savings that guarantees 4% return instead of insurance that pays a benefit. So, that's different, right? Instead of having an insurance, it's a real savings thing, which is, I don't know, sort of similar, but different. And do it up by setting up individual accounts that could be borrowed against the account holder for homes, businesses, education, even autos, instead of relying on the stock market for investment options. That's what the national government, the federal government's been doing the whole time. There's probably no money in Social Security. They take that big chunk of Social Security and they, use that as collateral to take out more loans for other social services that we need. And that's interesting. The big bank bailout. I don't know where all this money is going, and I think that troubles me. If I was to get into Frankfurt, I would be pointing out any of the wrongdoing or any sort of the backdoor hand wringing or any of the sort of, the ALEC laws, any ALEC laws that are being passed. I would be very suspicious of those things. I would be very much, opposed. I would be mostly opposed to it initially, and then I would try to, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. You can't argue with a good idea. You can't argue with good service, good products. You can't argue with those things. But I would get into Frankfurt and I would shake it up. I would get into Frankfurt and I would make sure that the corporations didn't run roughshod over the working classes. If you love yourself and your family and your neighbors and everybody that you see around here, if you love the 99%, then a young master's governorship would be an incredible undertaking. I mean, you would actually have honest men in government. Well, that's amazing. Having honest men in government, that's amazing. And so, so let's just keep on going. So they want to borrow, instead of having Social Security, do a different type of account, which is the same thing as Social Security, but having a real savings instead of insurance. Eliminate businesses. So that's what the Democrats get. What do the Republicans get? Well, businesses don't have to pay Social Security taxes anymore. And they don't have to provide retirement accounts if they agree to a 5% matching of the employee contribution of this new National Retirement Savings Account, the NRSA. Brilliant. Genius. I can live with that. And I think Republicans might be able to live with that. On taxes and income, reduced individual income taxes by as much as half by never allowing the withdrawal of funds from the new NRSAs and then taxing them at death 50%. The other 50% would be used to guarantee any loans have been paid in full and as inheritance for heirs. So, taxes and income, reduce individual income taxes by half by never allowing the withdrawal of funds by the new, the new Social Security program that Shannon Hill is proposing. And this is taxing them at death 50%. So he's saying that the death tax should stay in place, but we reduce the income taxes. And I don't know. I mean, the taxes have to come from somewhere. I think you really have to look into this. But I like that he's thought this through. Okay, so really, I mean, I probably would lean in the direction of Shannon Hill, because I mean, when you have a proposal like the NRSA, he's going to change Social Security, and then he's going to use that new Social Security program to have loans to be taken out for the social services that we need. Well, that's a radical change. That's a fundamental change in society, and so that would really shake things up. How does it all, how does it all shake out? Only time can tell. So zero corporate and business taxes in return for capital gains to be taxed just like regular income. So that's amazing. No business, no corporate taxes, lower the income taxes. I think Republicans would like all that. And then the taxes that we keep the estate tax. And then the other 50% would guarantee any loans have been paid in full and the inheritance for heirs. So half of it would go towards the government, and then the other half would make sure that all outstanding debts are paid and that the inheritance for the children get what they want. So zero corporate business taxes in return for capital gains. Capital gains, that's a big thing. I mean, I understand the logic of having consumption tax over producer tax because you want people producing things. But that is typically a Republican stance. So I think there's a lot of balance, right? There's a lot of conflicting forces that we really need to sort of sift through. And so that's, okay, 70% tax rate on individual income over $5 million and 90% top tax rate on individual income over $10 million in return for no minimum wage hikes. Completely abolish minimum wage by offering the government as an employer of last resort while instituting a guaranteed minimum income. So he's saying lower individual income tax rates, but he's saying 70% on income over $5 million and 90% on top tax rate on individuals over $10 million in return for no minimum wage hikes. So get rid of minimum wage, but tax the rich and tax the hell out of them. 70% tax rate on individual income over $5 million. You got over $5 million, all that extra money, the $5 million and $1, 70 cents of that is going to the government. 90%, if you got $10 million, 90% of those profits going to go to the government. I think that's a good federal solution. A state solution, I think there's different elements. You don't want all businesses running away and all rich people running away. But if the federal government did this, we would have such an incredible economy. We'd have such an incredible country. If we was to take the money that we spent for empire and put it into infrastructure, that would be amazing. Amazing government too. Also, GDP runs a deficit 2 times the amount of their GDP. And so that just means that we can borrow more money and gamble on Wall Street without sinking ourselves, even though that's not a solution. It's a temporary Band-Aid. And so you want to actually, get a real solution in there. You can't just borrow your way out of debt. But what else are you going to do? If you don't borrow money, then you're going to tax the rich. If you don't tax the rich, you're going to tax the poor. You can buy companies, and then you'll be a competitor in the free marketplace, and then everybody will cry socialism, and they'll have the cheapest products, and everybody will get, You know, the gas from the Somerset gas station that the mayor bought. So I like this. I like this for the federal government. I'm thinking about the $2.2 billion billionaire Wayne Bradley Hughes, the guy who owns Public Self Storage, which is a corporation based out of California, but he has in Kentucky. He lives in Kentucky. He lives here. And so if we were just going to, he has $2.2 billion. That's what he is worth. $2.2 billion. So every penny that's over $10 million, 90% of that would come back to Kentucky, to our, the essential services that we need, to our internet, to the guaranteed minimum income. But that also may make Wayne Bradley Hughes flee and go to a state where he doesn't have to pay the taxes. So that's why that might have to be a federal thing, to tax the hell out of the rich. Because if it's not uniform, then you're just, one of these states are going to be like Switzerland. Oh, all the banks and corporations, come on over here. Big tax haven. We need to protect, right, I don't think we need to protect the corporations and bankers, but we need to protect that they made the money and that they deserve to keep the money. And so that's, that's sound. But they also need to pay their fair share in taxes, and they also need to help out with society. So completely abolish the minimum wage by offering government as an employer of last resort while instituting a guaranteed minimum income. So he's mentioned the guaranteed minimum income, which is an incredible idea. Both MLK and Milton Friedman agree with the guaranteed minimum income. Completely abolish minimum wage by offering the government as an employer of last resort while instituting a guaranteed minimum income. So he's saying no more minimum wage. It is bad economics, but essentially it's for human rights. So actually, I wonder if maybe I should be opposed to the minimum wage in exchange for the guaranteed minimum income. That's not exactly I don't know. I guess it is. Sure it is. That's a supplemental income. Even middle class could find something to do with $10,000. They get some extra money. They get to buy a boat, and then poor people don't die. So the minimum wage, that's a price floor. It's not a free market economy thing. So he's saying, if you give me the guaranteed minimum income, okay, I would let go of the minimum wage. And so I'm not opposed. I'm very much for the minimum wage. But if we had guaranteed minimum income, oh my God, that would be the best solution in the world. It's a conservative and socialist solution. Again, we're mixing capitalist and socialist elements together, and I think that's what we have already. You send your kids to school, you get what's those child care things? WIC. You get WIC. You get free health care for your kids. You get Medicaid for your kids. And so that's socialism. Do you like those programs? Did you like that you had those things? Or are you against all type of social spending? If you're against all type of social spending, we're going to see what happened in Chile. We're going to see what happened in Haiti happen right here. And I'll mention, this is a foreboding warning story, but in Haiti in 2010, they had an earthquake. And they had an earthquake that killed 600,000 Haitians. But Chile had an earthquake the week before and only killed a couple of the Chileans, like a couple dozen, which is tragic, but it's not 500,000 people. That's the same amount of people that we just saved actually with Obamacare. So if the 600,000 people in Kentucky had died, that would be equivalent, because they didn't have health insurance, that'd be equivalent. Anyways, that's not my point. My point is, with Haiti, the reason why 500,000 people had died in Haiti was because it was a free market economy. They went in there, they cut all the social services, they've been privatizing everything, letting the corporations run roughshod, and then when the earthquake happened, they didn't have the emergency personnel, the EMSs, the hospital workers, there was no FEMA, there was nothing to actually save them. There was nothing to rescue the Haitian people. They was all, every man and woman and child for themselves. And that's what Kentucky is going to turn into. In some respects, it's kind of like that with the lack of solidarity, every person for themselves. But Unions increase wages and money and solidarity and respect for one another. I mean, unions are just such a. I need to go join a union right now. Instead of getting employed and then trying to unionize, that seems to be a harder thing. Go to the unionized positions. So, the guaranteed minimum income is incredible. It's amazing. That solves poverty in Appalachia. That solves poverty all across the board. That solves homelessness. So practically eliminate welfare by suspending payments on loans owed during times of economic hardship and by offering the GMI and government employment of last resort above. This would practically eradicate bankruptcy, home foreclosure, and auto repossessions for working class Americans. So no minimum wage, tax the rich, have government jobs. Because if you don't have a job in America, you die. Everybody's got to have a job in order to live. But if there's no jobs being provided out there, what is people going to do? Well, the government can say, well, work on this road, work on this building. There's something that you can do and get paid to do that would help out your income. And that keeps people working, keeps people productive, keeps people from floating or from, slipping off and drowning. Automatic payment of child support from NRSAs when deadbeat parents fail to pay. Sorry, I got a little dyslexic there, but fail to pay. And I think it's a good idea that helps with mothers that don't have deadbeat parents or fathers that don't have deadbeat parents that are paying. You're if they don't pay, then you're leaving it up to this single parent to provide for everybody. There are programs out there that do help and supplement people's incomes. But it's not, it's piecemeal and it's bureaucratic and it's not enough. So replace court-paid appointed attorneys with loans from NRSAs to pay for defense attorneys. Healthcare. Repeal Obamacare in exchange for Medicare for all with a private option for opting out for anyone showing ability to provide their own medical expenses. That's all right. That's good. I think we should Medicare for all with a private option. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it should be a public option. I don't know. Repeal Obamacare? Repeal it? That's Barack Obama's crowning achievement. I would only repeal Obamacare in exchange for Medicare for all. That's the only way. You make it Medicare for all, or you do away with it. So remove any requirements of businesses having to provide health care to employees in exchange for an appropriate percentage contribution of employee wages to Medicare for all. Education. Abolish the Department of Education. Eliminate all Pell Grants. So I said I want to go back up here. If you repeal Obamacare and you get Medicare for all, you're saving businesses from having to pay health insurance. Why would you be against it? This makes no sense. The Republican Party doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Of course we should have Medicare for all. Of course we should have a guaranteed minimum income. And Obamacare was a sellout to the private insurance industry. So, that would be the only way I would be in favor of repealing Obamacare. My fear of that would be that the rest of Obama's platform could be just dismantled. And there's a lot of positive things to what Obama did. He's going to go down in history as being one of the most successful, productive presidents. So if you was mad that you had a nigger as president, well, you're going to be even more mad when you're driving on Barack Obama Expressway. When you see Obama statues and, all these great monuments, all these big monuments that pays homage to, to our 43rd president. So abolish the Department of Education and eliminate all Pell Grants. Okay, that's a big thing. Why are we doing that? Well, we're going to have guaranteed loans through the new Medicaid for all, the Social Security thing, the new Social Security program. So the new Social Security program would have guaranteed loans, and it covers all the cost of advanced technical training in higher education, low interest payments that are suspended when unemployed, forgiveness of all or part of education debt for serving in the military, provide medical services in the area of need, other government service. And so I'm in favor of free college. I mean, they have free college in Germany. Germany provides free college, not just for the German people, but for all Americans. So if you go to a school in America, you're getting screwed. I'm $100,000 in debt because I went to school in America. If I went to school in Germany, they just implemented it. But if I was to go to school in Germany right now and put the same amount of years into the education, I would owe nothing and be a very intelligent person. Right? I'd be an expert in many fields. And so that's good. Do we want to be competitive on the global scale? Do we want to have better scientists and math people and engineers? Of course we do. You know, that's how we won World War II, because we was able to develop the technology faster than anybody else. And I'm not, that was for destruction, but we could develop technology faster for our creation, for our construction. So I like that idea. I like the idea because it's not free college. It's saying very cheap college, because it says it covers all the cost of technical training. So for trade, if people are not college material, they want to work with their hands, then they can work in technical training, and then they can work in learning new job skills and learning new trades. So everybody can learn something, and that's actually a good. I'm so frustrated with my Spalding University education, because I don't think that they educated me. They just lectured down to me like I'm stupid and that I don't know what's going on, and I'm just supposed to worship them like they're some type of god. They believe in 100% compliance, and I did it. I went through the rigmarole in order to get my degree, but they didn't play the game. I played the game, and the game changed its rules. Well, we don't just want 100% compliance. We want you to be obedient and whistling and skipping and frolicking in the meadow and be happy. Be a happy slave. That's what we want. You didn't educate me. Spalding University didn't educate me. You didn't strengthen me. You didn't support me. I didn't build any networks. It was a waste. It was a waste of 2 years, a waste of $50,000. An absolute waste. And I'm in debt up to my eyeballs because of this crap education. It was crap. But in order to get a teacher degree, you have to have some program that passes you through the program. That's the only way you can do it. It doesn't guarantee good teachers, not at all. In fact, I think it actually does the opposite. It brainwashes teachers to be part of that 100% compliance principle. The principle of 100% compliance is pounded into your brain. Classroom management is the most important class that all my peers had talked about. It's all about classroom management. Manage. So, if we had abolished the Department of Education, eliminated all the Pell Grants, and we had this guaranteed loans through the new Social Security program, we'd be like Germany. We'd be doing socialism well when it comes to educating our people. And then by having good, smart, educated folks, we can build new industries, new technologies. People can start their own businesses. We have greater solidarity, more civics, more democracy. True education. If we actually educated people to be strong supermen and superwomen, to be the best that they could be, not smash them into subservience, not smash their humanity out them, but treat them as equals, as human beings. When we teach others, that is the best way to learn. When we teach others, 90% of all that we lecture on, we retain, the teacher does, but the students only retain 5%. That's not an education. Education is when you're built up and you actually retain the information, and that information is relevant in your life. This is common sense. It's common sense 101. And so I would be in favor of that compromise. All these compromises, I don't like some of the parts, but I think that the outcome that comes out of it is better. And if Republicans are down with these ideas, do it. Do it. And then go back for the interest of freedom. Allow for practically unlimited rights to gun ownership in exchange for freedom to marry whomever one may choose. And Roe v. Wade upheld rights for a woman's right to choose. The result of all this would be to give Republicans the closest thing possible to a truly free market society, while also providing for the social and financial concerns of working class Americans. Business expenses and taxes would be cut dramatically, but at the same time, the inequality would be returned to the levels of the 1950s and 60s. Medical expenses and many financial worries would be eliminated, and retirement benefits would at least double and be sustainable forever. Higher education would be guaranteed for all while actually costing the government less, and freedom would reign by not allowing one group to tell any other how they should live. And he has other ideas for compromise in areas like energy, environment, criminal justice, drugs, the Fed, the NSA. But these give a few examples how some give and take between us could end up bringing a lot of progress. The Fed, the NSA. So that's that's what we're faced with. And I, as lieutenant governor, I would talk to Shannon Hill. These are for federal solutions, but Frankfurt passes laws, and then Frankfurt takes the federal money that the feds give and then implements it on their own. So I think that if any of these compromises or ideas could be instituted in Kentucky, then they should be instituted. And then when I need some good ideas for how to compromise with energy, environment, criminal justice, drugs, the Fed, the NSA, if the Senate stays Republican, especially if both the House and the Senate become Republican, oh my God, I would have Shannon Hill on speed dial. I want to get my things passed through, but these damned Republicans. So what do? Well, we're going to have to compromise. And, I'm not going to compromise my principles. I'm not going to compromise my morality. The compromise is sort of saying, hey, let businesses make their money so they can provide jobs. Okay. That's fine. That's totally, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually very good. That's a good thing, especially in the capitalist society that we're in. But there's other areas to think about. Drugs, criminal justice, the Fed, NSA, environment, energy. We do need to think about all this stuff. And so if we were Democratic governors with a Republican House and Senate, then like I said, Shannon Hill would be on speed dial. And, I would walk into the meeting and say, look, here is what we're not going to do. And here's what we are going to do. And then they'll say the same thing, and then we'll have to figure it out. We'll have to work it out, sit in a room and figure it out. That's what Wendell Ford said that they used to do. We used to just go to the back door and figure these deals out. It's becoming different with all this transparency. I wouldn't mind actually being transparent with those discussions. Because what would be the argument? Corporations should be allowed to run roughshod over the environment and working class peoples and everybody else? That's ridiculous. So, yeah, I think this is a great synthesis of the compromises that Republicans and Democrats can do that will make for a better, more progressive society that also retains our capitalistic nature. That is us doing capitalism and socialism better. And like I said, Germany is doing it better than Kentucky. Kentucky has 171 million or billion? Billion. That's important to know. I'm going to say billion because I think the debt is 34 billion. So if our GDP is 171 billion, let's check out Germany's GDP. Not GEDP. Oh, come on, man. Yeah, $3.7 trillion. $3.7 trillion. That's with a T. That's not like B or M. When we start talking about trillions of dollars. Kentucky can do this. Kentucky can get up and surpass $3.7 trillion. We need corporations in here to be making stuff, and we need poor individuals starting their own small businesses producing stuff. Everybody starts producing stuff, economist says, then our economy will get better. When you produce those 100 cars that didn't sell, or 100,000 cars, you might go under with something like, you probably should just produce like one or two or something to see if there's a demand. But if you see that there is not a demand, then you retool and you create a car that people want to buy. And so that's all people have to do. If you're a small business, you just have to retool, produce a bunch of stuff, and if people aren't buying it, then you have to produce some other stuff. and that'll increase the GDP, and then the quality of life for Kentuckians. I think that Wayne Bradley Hughes, even if he was taxed a little bit more, I don't think he would run away if we had a nice society to live in, a good society, the Great Society. LBJ's Great Society was a great idea. But the war on poverty has failed. Lots of poor people in Kentucky. About 25% to 50% of our kids are poor. So, you know, these are the stakes. This is what we got to do. Let's check out Japan's GDP. So, I mean, $3.7 trillion. And that's just one country. We're 50 states in one country, right? And so, Germany, I don't know how big it is, like maybe like Texas or something. But Japan is smaller than California. And they make $4.9 trillion worth of stuff. Their capitalism is kicking ass. We have $171 billion. And then Japan has $4.92 trillion. Germany has $3.7 trillion. So we're just a drop in the bucket. We're less, I mean, that's what, 20% of a trillion. So divide that by 3 or 4. We're operating at a 5% level when it comes to GDP. We're operating at a 5% level of Japan and Germany. So under a young master's administration, you would see greater union protections, more social programs, less waste, hopefully a guaranteed minimum income, environmental protections, protections of freedoms and rights, and you would see corporations in their headquarters making a ton of money. So everybody's happy. A rising tide should lift all boats. If the economy in Kentucky is advancing and doing better, how come Kentucky's working classes, they're not getting better wages? It's stagnated. They're having to work overtime. Women are having to get out of the house to get some crap job that they don't like in order to help supplement the income. And people are getting into more and more debt. And that's Robert Reich that said that. But that's what we're doing. The American people are stretching themselves as far as they could stretch themselves in order to make ends meet. And so I think it's time for the rich and the corporations to do the exact same thing. They should be protecting their pennies and dollars. I'm not sure what I was going to say with that. But that's the government should save their pennies and dollars just as much as the people should. But at the same time, I think that we have a social, the corporations, they only want to make money. So what do we have government for? Well, the government is there to curb corporate crimes. The government is there to make sure that they respect because if you're just making a ton of money, they're going to steal all the coal, pollute all the streams, pay everybody the lowest amount of wage that they could possibly get away with, and then take all of Kentucky's resources and profits and our sweat, blood, toil, and tears and go laughing to the bank with record profits. So I think we can do it both. I think Bradley Wayne Hughes would stick around in Kentucky for a society that, was greener and nicer and friendlier and had people that wasn't just slipping off into the netherworld. So that's my sort of assessment. I want to actually make this just so that I always have a copy of this. This is just such genius, This is just really smart stuff. It takes a lot of thought, and it's a good synthesis of information. It's genius stuff, and so I want to document it, and hopefully I could return to it, without having to search for this post or just emailing him directly. But they have, he's got other great ideas. So Shannon Hill would be useful. He would be one of my top economic advisors. So, Viva la Revolution, Kentucky! Occupy!